Yesterday in Congress, a historic event took place where members from both sides of the aisle came together, both from the House and Senate, and they listened to the Ukrainian President Zelensky address Congress, where he asked for both a no-fly zone and also some additional military aircraft. The president responded with $800 million worth of military assistance here. It wasn't exactly what Zelensky was asking for, but what's your evaluation of the White House's response during this time of war?
Well, President Zelensky gave a very impassioned and emotional speech. He showed us a video, and it's very troubling to see all the death and destruction that's taking place in the Ukraine. The emotions were running very high in that room. What we have not heard is that by providing this additional assistance, how it's going to help the Ukrainian people regain control over their own country. And I'm very concerned about prolonging the death and destruction that is taking place in the Ukraine. Again, no one has sat down and laid down a timeline or a plan with which they can demonstrate that the Ukrainian people are going to be able to regain control over their own country. I think it is critically important for us at this juncture, because we missed an opportunity for the past 14 months to push back on the Russians and keep them from trying to take control over Ukraine by utilizing fully economic sanctions and energy sanctions. We missed that boat. So I think now we need to take a hard look at NATO, our NATO allies that we do have agreements and commitments with and to make sure that we reinforce those borders, those boundaries, and prepare NATO so that the Russian army doesn't continue to try and push forward to inflict this same type of problem on some of those countries.
Yeah. Well, the devastation that's taking place in Ukraine every day impacts families who are civilians there, just going about their daily lives. More than 3 million refugees estimated by the UN at this point, a major humanitarian crisis. You talk about communicating with NATO allies. The president will be traveling to Brussels to meet with NATO in the coming weeks here. What are your anticipations for that meeting? And quite frankly, is peace on the table? Could there be some negotiations that could take place between Ukraine and Russia to end the war?
I certainly hope so. That is what my preference would be, that we can sit down and make sure that this is negotiated out, because, again, the death and destruction that is taking place right now is the sole obligation and responsibility of Putin. There's no argument about that. But we have to find the end to this conflict. And I'm just hoping that those discussions don't include us entering ourselves further into this conflict. What I do not want to see are American troops coming in direct contact with Russian troops. That would be absolutely a disaster for the world. And so that's where I regroup and say, let's go ahead and focus our attention on showing that our strength is on the lines, on the allies that we do have these commitments with. Our NATO allies, and show that that is where the red line, as we always hear about, is drawn, and try to help these other parties come together and bring an end to this terrible war.
March 24th. That's when the president will be meeting with NATO allies. But before that, he'll be placing a phone call with Xi Jinping of China. And that's going to be tomorrow. The White House released a briefer saying they're going to talk about competition between the countries and then, of course, Russia's war in Ukraine. What are your concerns about China's role, possibility of that in this current invasion?
So, Emma, right now, I think the whole world needs to understand that China wants to be the world power. They're not trying to seek to be one of the world powers, and they're doing everything that they possibly can in order to accomplish that. We saw it just the other day when they started having the transactions with Saudi Arabia for the crude oil, and they have convinced them, in order to do so, that they're going to have to take the Chinese currency, the yuan. Once we start undermining the global confidence in the U.S. dollar being the reserve currency, we are going to have substantial and serious economic impacts across the globe. And so while they're doing that, they're also talking about supporting the Russian efforts there in the Ukraine. All of this in an effort to undermine the United States' position as the world's leader.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what comes from that call as day 22 of the war in Ukraine continues. Congressman Matt Rosendale taking the time, joining us this morning. Thank you, Congressman. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks.